Welcome to this explainer. Okay, right now, as we're talking, literally trillions of dollars in global economic activity are completely dependent on hardware floating in a freezing vacuum hundreds of miles above our heads. Crazy, right? Today, we're unpacking why physical, earthbound access to space has rapidly become the ultimate geopolitical high ground for nations all over the globe. We aren't just talking about distant scientific exploration here. No, we're diving into the hard data to understand the most critical, yet somehow completely invisible, infrastructure system driving our modern world. To really grasp the absolute gravity of this situation, I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow morning to find that space has been completely subtracted from your daily life. And I don't just mean we stop launching rockets. I mean every single satellite currently in orbit suddenly goes completely dark. So, what actually happens down here on the ground? Well, it wouldn't just be a minor inconvenience, like losing the GPS routing on your morning commute. The reality? It's a cascading, compounding failure of modern civilization. Within milliseconds, global financial timing systems would completely desynchronize. That means credit card networks freeze, ATM withdrawals halt, and global stock markets are completely unable to process or timestamp trades. Global supply chain logistics? Instantly fractured as ships and cargo planes lose their primary navigation. Without satellite uplinks, global internet connectivity would degrade rapidly in remote areas, and our advanced weather forecasting would literally be thrown back to the 1950s. And on a national security level, critical intelligence gathering and military operations would instantly go practically blind. You see, we rely on the space-based infrastructure literally just to keep the lights on and the economy moving. This dense, fragile web of satellites wrapping around our globe is the literal lifeblood of our modern existence. Every single node you see out there represents a crucial piece of infrastructure. Whether it's beaming broadband down to a rural farm or providing encrypted communications for a naval fleet, it is a bustling superhighway in low Earth orbit. But here's the catch that often gets completely overlooked. That massive, complex orbital web doesn't just magically manifest up there. Every single piece of it is bottlenecked by physical constraints right here on the ground. Section 1. Gateways to orbit. The Earthbound bottleneck. So here is the crucial point. All those satellites, sophisticated spacecraft, and defense systems depend entirely on physical gateways on the ground, spaceports. Think about this for a second. There are tens of thousands of airports globally, right? But there are only a highly exclusive handful of truly operational, orbital-class spaceports. What were once highly specialized, almost academic rocket launch facilities have transformed into the absolute critical choke points of the entire global economy. This physical launch infrastructure now dictates geopolitical capability. Simply put, if your country doesn't have a gateway or access to one, you just don't have access to the orbital networks your economy absolutely relies on. And you can't just pave over a cornfield and build these gateways anywhere. Geography ruthlessly dictates our access to space. Launch locations situated closer to the equator are incredibly valuable pieces of real estate. Why? Because they benefit from the Earth's natural rotational speed. Launching near the equator gives a rocket a free boost of approximately 1,000 miles per hour just from the planet's spin. That vastly improves launch efficiency and lets you pack significantly more payload onto the rocket. Conversely, launch sites positioned near the poles or with clear trajectories north and south are just as critical but for completely different reasons. They're uniquely suited for placing reconnaissance, spy satellites, and Earth observation tools into polar trajectories that sweep over the entire rotating globe. Basically, where you sit on the map fundamentally determines what you can put into the sky. Now, getting to orbit requires a staggering, monumental footprint on the ground. A modern spaceport operates less like an airport and a lot more like a massive, self-contained industrial city. I mean, you're dealing with thousands of tons of super-chilled liquid oxygen and highly volatile propellants. You have sprawling mission control centers, multi-story payload processing facilities kept in pristine clean room conditions, and vast radar tracking arrays. It's a physical reality that demands immense, sustained capital investment and highly specialized engineering just to maintain basic operations. Section 2. The Modern Space Race. New competitors. Okay, let's dive into who is actually building and controlling these massive facilities today. We are definitely no longer living in the Cold War era of strict, slow-moving government monopolies. Today's modern space competition is a fiercely dynamic, rapidly evolving arena. Nimble, highly capitalized commercial launch providers, think SpaceX and Rocket Lab, are completely transforming access to orbit. By mastering reusable rockets, they've slashed the cost of launches and increased the global cadence to an unprecedented pace. And, they're operating right alongside and often directly partnered with expanding military space commands and legacy international agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency. Private enterprise and government defense are now inextricably linked right there on the launch pad.
This radically shifting landscape brings us to a massively important concept: strategic autonomy. Think about it. Absolutely no nation wants to rely on a geopolitical rival for a ride to space when their entire domestic economy and defense apparatus relies on actually being there. Strategic autonomy is all about ultimate sovereignty. Countries are investing heavily in their own domestic space industries and sovereign launch capabilities because they desperately need to ensure national resilience. In a crisis, you literally cannot be standing in line asking another country for permission to launch your critical satellites.
Section 3. Securing the high ground, a new military domain. As dependence grows, space domain awareness is now a high-stakes, 24/7 military operation. We have officially designated space as a critical operational military domain, explicitly standing alongside land, sea, air, and cyberspace. Right now, global tracking networks are actively monitoring orbital intercept alerts, missile launch detection systems, and the maneuvering of foreign assets. Military satellites are silently supporting global intelligence, drone communications, targeting parameters, and strategic nuclear deterrence every single second of the day. But here's the frightening part. With all this increasing dependence comes severe, almost existential vulnerability. Satellites in orbit are largely sitting ducks without the right defenses, and the threat matrix is escalating quickly. We're seeing cyber attacks directly targeting satellite software to commandeer or shut them down. There's signal jamming to block communications on the battlefield. Nations have even tested physical anti-satellite weapons designed to blow orbital assets right out of the sky. And then, well, there's the compounding chaotic danger of orbital debris. A tiny fleck of stray paint moving at 17,500 miles per hour will strike a multi-million-dollar satellite with the kinetic force of a falling anvil. Protecting these fragile space-based systems has rapidly evolved into a top-tier national security mandate. Section 4. The future space economy, expanding the horizon. So, once we've secured the current infrastructure, where is all of this massive global investment actually leading? Well, we are looking squarely at the next industrial revolution. Future competition isn't just going to be about launching telecommunication satellites or snapping high-res photos of the Earth. No, it's moving toward the off-world relocation of heavy industry. We are talking about orbital manufacturing, creating fiber optics or pharmaceuticals in zero gravity that we simply cannot make on Earth. We're looking at building permanent lunar infrastructure, establishing satellite servicing hubs to refuel dying assets, deploying fully autonomous space systems, and even prototyping space-based solar power generation. This isn't science fiction anymore, folks. This is the actual strategic blueprint being funded and pursued by major commercial and government organizations today. We are moving from mere scientific exploration to a bustling, integrated off-world economy. Imagine enclosed agricultural domes on the lunar surface, fully robotic manufacturing stations assembling massive structures in orbit, and a logistics chain that extends hundreds of thousands of miles into the black. The infrastructure to support this whole shebang is being laid down right now. As our sources beautifully summarize, the modern space race is no longer simply about exploration or prestige. It increasingly involves infrastructure, economic power, and geopolitical influence. Planting a flag on a rock? Well, that's a nice photo op. But establishing a permanent, heavily defended, economically vital logistics hub in orbit? That is the true endgame. It's about hard infrastructure, technological leadership, and profound geopolitical leverage. Ultimately, access to orbit fundamentally shapes global strategic power. The infrastructure that enables that access, those massive spaceports, the reusable launch vehicles, the highly specialized equatorial real estate we've explored, will inevitably become the most defining geopolitical assets of the 21st century. So I leave you with this final thought to ponder. As our entire modern civilization becomes inextricably permanently tethered to orbit, who will ultimately control these gateways to our future?